Hi, my name is Chris Matthews and I'm your relationship coach and licensed marriage and family therapist. In this video, I'm going to talk about caretaker burnout and how to prevent your relationship from falling victim from illnesses, whether they be mental or physical. So, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you guys are joining me today. At the time of this video, we're on somewhat of the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of people are coming out of the pandemic with partners who may have either been sick or are currently sick or having long-term side effects of the pandemic. Those side effects and illnesses can be physical. A lot of research has shown that some patients are having long-term residual effects of the virus. They can also be mental, enhanced anxiety, depression, mood disorders, etc. So when I talk about illnesses, I'm not just referring to physical illnesses. I'm talking about mental and physical health issues. As a partner, when you become married or engaged in a long-term committed relationship, you're making some vow to be there by your partner's side in sickness and in health. So the goal of the video is to really talk about how do you protect yourself when taking care of your partner, and what are a couple different things you can consider that protect your relationship in the event you or your partner become sick or ill. And just for clarity, I want to make sure I make this known. We're mortal beings, meaning at some point your physical body will break down and will no longer be here on the planet. So if you choose to be with a partner in sickness and in health until death do you part, then look at death or dying as a day-to-day process. Every day your body is getting older and leading you toward not being here anymore. So I love the fact that when you make the commitment to be married or in a committed relationship, you don't have to go through that process alone. However, I want to make sure that you understand that that process is hard on the person who is ill, but it's also hard on you as the person who's taking care of them. So that's why I want you to look at and acknowledge the 4 signs that you or someone you know may be encountering what we call caretaker burnout. Caretaker burnout is also a term that a lot of mental health professionals have to be aware of, and that can also be called caregiving fatigue, or I'm messing up the verbiage, but caretaker fatigue, in the sense that if I'm listening to someone's problems every day and I'm involved in their relationship that's problematic, if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not recharging. So I could become less empathetic to the issue because I'm not taking care of myself, so I can't take care of anyone else. So that same concept overlaps with clinicians and with people who are in committed relationships that are taking care of a partner. So what are the 4 signs? The first sign is when the caretaker partner begins to neglect their own dietary and sleep habits or needs. So your body needs certain nutritional components to perform. And if you're not fueling your body, then you won't have the ability to provide the care you desire for another person. Think of it like your car. If you don't put gas in your car, it won't go. Over time, as that car moves, it's going to build up the need for additional fuel. Think about your cell phone. At some point, the battery is going to run down where it needs to be recharged. You're the same way. And if you find yourself missing meals, not eating, not sleeping, then you're not recharging yourself. What makes this challenging is that some partners that are taking care of a loved one that's ill or sick may feel this obligation that if they leave their partner side for one moment, or if they're not available, that they're not doing enough. And later on in the video, I'll talk about additional supports to help. But let's go to the fourth sign. The fourth sign is going to be a reduction in social activities. Depending on being an introvert or extrovert is not really applicable here. At some point, despite if you're introvert or extrovert, it doesn't matter. You're going to need social interaction. We're social beings. We need to connect with other people at some point. The length of time, the type of connection may differ, but people need to be engaging with other people. If you find yourself isolating who you are, isolating yourself from other people, and you're only exclusively with your partner in their time of need, then that could be a sign of caretaker burnout. It doesn't mean you need to have a party or go to a social event. It could be something as simple as picking up the phone when a friend calls to check in with you. Just knowing that you don't have to do this by yourself. That's part of the fuel. Engaging with other individuals that can recharge you socially, provide you with those words of encouragement, be there to bring you a plate after you got done cooking for your caretaker partner. Be there for a moment to take a shift to watch your partner or to meet their needs while you get a shower, while you take a nap, while you take care of you. So social interactivities are valuable resources, and they're also necessities in recharging you as the caretaker partner. Fourth, if you find yourself losing energy, at some point, if you don't recharge, your body will begin to break down. I'm responsible for not having always taken care of myself, and I put a lot of pressure to perform and to succeed and to take care of my clients and my family and my business and other areas of my life. But what happened is I lost energy over time, and I kept going. I used caffeine and other supplements that were all legal to give myself boosts of energy. What happened is I began to suffer from insomnia, where I could never cut my brain off. From that, I developed anxiety. So at the end of the day, the body's going to win. I had to learn the hard way. And it's so important that if you find yourself not recharging and using supplements or other things to keep yourself going, at some point it's going to run out and you will crash. And crash, for me, looked like anxiety. It looked like being overly stressed. And I was into a lot of the self-help material. You got to lose sleep. My guy, I love him to death. He's a great inspirational speaker, Eric Thomas. He talks about how he wakes up at 2, 3 a.m. That ain't for everybody. That is not for everybody. You got to make sure you're recharging yourself. And that stuff almost killed me. So once again, make sure that you don't supplement the loss of energy with caffeine, because the body will win. Fourth, if you find yourself becoming angry and irritable all the time, then caretaker burnout may be on the horizon. And what I mean by that is you can be angry with the situation because your partner who you love and care about is suffering, and outside of providing comfort, you have no control. I had a case. It was. I'll never forget this case. It really touches me every time I think about it. It was a male partner. He was actually married. He and his wife had been married for 45 years. They met very young. They did everything they were supposed to do. They got great careers established. They raised 2 children. They were devoted to their jobs. They also worked in their church part-time, and they did all of this with the anticipation of once we hit 55, we can retire, we can go off. They've known each other. They met as kids. They knew each other since, I think he said, middle school. So he has this woman that's been a part of his life from the early stages all the way to now, and they get to 55 and they made it. Now we can travel the world. We can go off, and she gets a breast cancer diagnosis. And I met this gentleman because, as I shared with you guys in other videos, I'm also a substance abuse counselor, and I do assessments. And he had gotten cited for DWI, and it was an odd case because he had a clean driver and never even had a speeding ticket, and he couldn't get through the assessment without crying because he was sharing how angry he was that the last year of his wife's life at 55, he was a caretaker. He had to be there, and he couldn't stop the cancer. They did treatments. It eventually took her life, and his anger came about because he was in a position where he had to watch his wife suffer, and he couldn't do anything to stop it. And this was supposed to be their victory lap. This was supposed to be the reward of working and then retiring. And the caretaker burnout continued to manifest even after his wife was gone because of the anger. He never treated that anger, and he attempted to cope with the anger by suppressing those feelings with alcohol. And a lot of times, even if your partner hasn't deceased and are still living, the anger doesn't necessarily mean that you're projecting violence toward the partner that you're taking care of. It could be internal. And now I want to process 3 different approaches, skills, techniques, or tools you can use to treat and prevent caretaker burnout. The first one is going to be making sure you've identified available resources. I define resources as money, time, access to care, and social and human capital. Having the monetary needs met when it comes to paying for care and support are vital. And that looks like putting money aside so if or when you and your partner become sick or ill, you don't have to do it by yourself. The time also is important when you look at continuously making time for yourself while you're taking care of your partner. Access to care, that's huge. Having the ability to find and treat illnesses early can help you on the back end. And last but not least, human capital. Having that person or persons available that you can lean on and boost you up as you're taking care of your partner are vital. Based on your age and family of origin, meaning if there are history or health issues that are already presented, you can start to identify resources that can protect you in the event you or your partner becomes sick or ill. For example, in my family, prostate cancer is very prevalent. So I'm already starting to identify available resources pertaining to diet plans, meals, behaviors that I can do now to prevent acquiring prostate cancer in the future. So some of the articles I've read talk about how coffee, for example, is helpful. And by the way, I'm not a medical professional, so do communicate with your doctor. I'm just going off of some of the research that I found and giving you guys an example of how resources can also come by way of information. Okay, the next strategy, tool, or technique. Identify and target the use of effective and timely treatments. This kind of segues from the resource one. If you have health insurance, that can be an opportunity to engage in screenings and have support with paying for medical care. That's vital because you can have health insurance policies that include other supports. You can have a health insurance policy that allows you to have money set aside in the event that there is cancer or something else that occurs. And that aligns with the first resource or the first step, which is looking at resources, because gaining information on your family history is a resource. If you know that as a woman, for example, a lot of the women in your family have acquired breast cancer, I'm not telling you to anticipate it, but you want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. So you may want to add a couple extra dollars onto your policy that include cancer treatment in the event that occurs. So identify around what age in your family that tends to usually pop up. And that's going to be effective in timely treatments as well, and aligning the resources with the effective timely treatments. Screenings. My father, he is very adamant about ensuring that his PSA levels, I believe I'm using the right term, but ultimately the levels that determine if prostate cancer is going to be there or not. He's always getting screenings annually to check those levels out. My wife, because breast cancer runs in her side of the family, she does a mammogram and a pap smear because cervical cancer is also in her family. So those screenings are very critical, because if you can catch it earlier, then you have a better outcome later on usually. Last but not least, make a plan. Make a plan. A lot of times people don't want to talk about illness or hardships because even the thought of it is hard. The dialogue's hard. It's part of being a responsible partner, however. Look at life insurance policies. When my son was born, I immediately got a life insurance policy. With each child, I increased that life insurance policy. Make sure that you have a plan in play. I know it's tough to talk about. I know it's tough to think about. But what's tougher, to talk about it and think about it now, or leaving your partner with the resentment because you didn't handle your business and have life insurance or health insurance available in the event something happens? And that's very critical. Part of being an adult, part of growing up, looks like having difficult conversations. It looks like preparing for the worst, because it ain't always about you when you're in a relationship. Now it's about someone else too. So make sure that you have the dialogue. Once again, the major goal of all of my videos are to ensure that you and your partner are bringing up the topics. Are you having the dialogues? Use this video as a segue to go home, speak with your partner about, in the event they were to get sick or you got sick, what's your plan? What resources do you have available? How are you going to combat the issues that can come with caretaker burnout? Make sure that you're responsible enough now so later on you can have a better outcome. I think about my great uncle and aunt. They didn't have any children, and my uncle, he's since deceased. My aunt's still living, and she just turned 90 years old this year. And despite the hardships of my uncle having prostate cancer, he had a tumor in his brain. He actually lived to be in his 90s, and he was in good health and in his right mind. His health dropped down the last year of life, but you talking about 80-something years, 89 years, 88 years of good health where he was functional. And even at the end, the radiation treatment for the brain tumor really took him out because his brain was damaged. But for the most part, he had a great life where he didn't put the hardships on his wife. And my aunt, who's still able to walk around the block and function properly at 90 on her own, she took care of herself. So they had a plan. They always had insurance. They always had resources available despite not having children. They have a strong social network. They were able to enjoy a high quality of life as they prepared for the inevitable as you grow old. So make sure that you're having a dialogue. And once again, it's been a pleasure to present this information to you. Also, feel free to subscribe to to my channel and visit our website, relationshipcounselingtools.com. Once again, in the safety section, we go over this material, and we have workbooks and other things that can be valuable, because if you fail to plan, then you've already planned to fail. And my belief is that healthy relationships are based on you and your partner ensuring that you both feel safe, heard, understood, and cared for. My name is Chris Matthews. I'm your relationship coach and licensed marriage and family therapist, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side.
You can never go back.